The Iron Skillet will be a great measuring stick game for TCU football.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's right, Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. I've been covering TCU athletics for the past 12 years. We're brought to you today by FanDuel. NBA playoffs going on right now. Great time to join FanDuel. I'll tell you about them later on in the show. We're also going to talk today about TCU baseball salvaging the last game of their series against Arizona and taking down the Wildcats 13-6, trying to stay in the hosting conversation. Two more Big 12 series left before the Big 12 tournament and postseason play starts. TCU had a 4-star offensive lineman on campus over the weekend. He is a 2026 prospect as Sonny Dykes continues to try to build around the O-line. But we start today. If you missed it yesterday, all this week we're doing a series. The 5 most important games on the TCU football schedule as it stands right now on paper. Number 5 was North Carolina. And while the game itself is important, winning your season opener is a big deal. I think the bigger opportunity for TCU lies in the national spotlight they will have with it being a standalone Monday night game against Bill Belichick in his first season coaching college football. That's a big stage for TCU. And for a team that has been out of the spotlight really since that loss to Colorado in the season opener a few years ago, this is a chance to introduce yourself back to the world. I've been looking at these post-spring practice top 25s. Now, Brandon Marcello from 247 Sports had TCU at number 15, but in large part, TCU was not there. So a good chance to get back on the radar with a win over North Carolina. Number 4, staying in non-conference. And I told you yesterday, conference games have more importance now because if you win a conference title, you automatically make the playoff. But that being said, this SMU game is important. The Iron Skillet, the last one that we'll have for the foreseeable future. Games we played in Fort Worth. TCU's scheduled to start the year. North Carolina, then they get a bye week before hosting ACU. And they take on SMU on September 20th. SMU, East Texas A&M, Baylor, Missouri State, and then TCU on September 20th on the road. I have said before, if you've listened to this podcast for a while, for a long time, you've probably heard me say this. I've always thought the SMU game was a good determining factor and a good measuring stick for where TCU football was. And for a long time, my reasoning behind that was this. SMU wasn't a good football team, but that was a huge rivalry game for them. It was a game that they expended a lot of effort and energy to try and win because there was a lot of opportunity for them. When they were a G5 school, it was a win over a Power 5 program and a win against one of their biggest rivals. So for many years, if TCU came out and handled their business and played well and focused, that was a good indicator that the team's culture was in a good place. That mentally, they had the focus they needed to be successful. If they screwed around and struggled, or every once in a while when they would lose, it was a good sign that things probably weren't going to go well. And in fact, in Gary Patterson's last few years, with Sonny Dykes on the other sideline, ironically, those back-to-back losses to SMU were at the beginning of seasons where TCU finished 5-7. And it was an early sign of the flaws and the issues with that team. Now, last year, the script kind of flipped a little bit. I would say by the end of the season, I would judge TCU's year as a success. But now SMU's in a place where their talent level is similar to what TCU puts on the field. And so I still think it's a good measuring stick for TCU, but for a different reason. It's a game against a Power 4 opponent right before conference play starts that gives you a good idea of where you stand. Because after that, TCU will play defending Big 12 champion Arizona State on the road. Then they turn around and they get Colorado at home. Then they go on the road to play Kansas State. Listen to that stretch again. I'll include Baylor in that too. SMU at home, on the road against Arizona State, Colorado at home, traveling to Manhattan to play K-State, and then hosting Baylor. That's a pretty salty stretch of football there. But it starts with a game against a team that embarrassed you last year. The other reason why I think this game is important, Baylor is TCU's biggest rival. You can argue with me in the YouTube comments if you want. I think it's the truth. Baylor is TCU's biggest rival. But let me tell you this, and if this doesn't make sense, let me know. It bothers me more when TCU loses to SMU. And maybe it shouldn't at this point, because we know what SMU is. Rhett Lashley's done a good job there. They've made a commitment financially to get themselves into a Power 4 conference. They've made a commitment financially to bring in talented players, to bring in good players. But I still don't like losing to them. And for such a long time in my TCU fandom, it was such a rare thing to stumble and lose to them that it just really bothers me. And last year, I guess we have to say the Houston game was rock bottom. It was after they beat Kansas and you felt like, okay, cool. Turn this thing around. Went on the road, got a win against a KU team that was struggling, but is got a good quarterback and a coaching staff that people respect. All right. We're back in the driver's seat here to take the season where it needs to go. Well, then you drive into a ditch by losing to Houston at home on a Friday night. But I don't think there was a time in the year where I felt worse than after they got embarrassed by SMU. And make no mistake about it, that was an embarrassing loss last season. We didn't even know, at that time, we didn't know what SMU was going to be. They were just coming off a loss to BYU. I think they had a bye week in between. They threw Kevin Jennings in there for his first start. They ran the ball all over TCU. They're the more physical football team that day. Frogs turned the ball over. Gave a punt return touchdown. You look up, it's 17-0. Offense finally got into a rhythm, but defense couldn't get stops, and they couldn't find their way back in that ballgame. But giving up 66 points to that SMU team was about as embarrassing as it gets. And TCU needs to get right with the world again in mid-September when they play SMU. But all that being said, this is also a really good chance to see on both sides of the ball where you stand. Offensively, that's an SMU defense that's been really good the last couple of years. And while the offense put up good numbers in the game last year, I would not say their performance was quality. They put up a lot of points. They had big plays. But they had multiple turnovers. Missed on a few fourth down conversions. Had a few chances to really cut into that lead and couldn't do it. And it felt kind of like towards the end of 2023, which was the Chandler Morris year, and then Josh Hoover takes over in the middle of the season. Games against OU and Texas, really OU. Texas ended up being a close ball game, but TCU got behind by a big deficit. And then the offense sort of kicked it into gear, but it was after the opposing defense had sort of relaxed a little bit and was playing more prevent coverage, playing more soft coverage, trying to keep everything in front of them. then you saw the TCU offense start to have success. That's what it felt like against SMU in Dallas that afternoon. And Sonny Dykes got tossed. And maybe it shouldn't bother me this much, but that was also just like, dude, what are you doing? I get it. Emotional game for him. He was probably getting the business from SMU fans all day long. But you can't lose control like that on the sidelines and get tossed. So offensively, a good test to see what kind of rhythm this team is in. Can they run the ball? Can they be more physical than the SMU front? And defensively, this was a team that took them down last year. I mean, just did whatever they wanted on offense. And Andy Avalos and his defense did not have an answer. So if this defense is the group that we think they are, look, you're probably not going to pitch a shutout, but can you slow this SMU team down and keep them out of the end zone for the majority of the game? Force some field goals, get some stops, put your offense in good field position. A game at home against your rival with a chance to get back at them after the defeat that you took last year. Yeah, there better be some juice and there better be some energy. I know historically this is, or at least in the last 2 decades, this has been a game where SMU's really brought the fire and the heat. Well, TCU needs to match it right now. This has got to stop. Okay. I don't know. I'm talking to you guys like that, like you're in control of it, but you can sense the frustration in my voice. So go win this ball game against a talented team. The tough thing about this non-conference schedule, you're playing 2 ACC opponents in your first 3 weeks. You're playing some good coaches. But what's the positive aspect of that? You'll have a pretty good idea of how teams are going to attack you. You're going to get exposed. And the hope is that you can get exposed and win some games. You can find things to work on. You can find things to fine tune. You can figure out what you want your identity to be. What are the plays? What are the schemes? What are the formations and personnel groupings that work for you? And also, what's not working? What has to change? How do we need to move throughout the rest of the season in order to be successful? Good opportunity for TCU in both instances, but SMU at number 4 because of the history, because of everything that's at stake in this ball game. When we come back, TCU has a 4-star offensive tackle, had him on campus over the weekend. Can they land the big man from Sulphur Springs? FanDuel there, one of our loyal sponsors. Folks, the NBA playoffs is going on right now. Great game right before I got on, going into overtime between the Celtics and the Knicks. How about Jalen Brunson, man? Clutch player. Missed a shot like at the buzzer, but he's been an outstanding player for the Knicks. I wish he was still in a Mavericks uniform. NBA playoffs are in full swing. Every night delivers highlight-worthy performances. Make sure you get in on the action with FanDuel. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to win big and play smart. You could get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. Again, that first $5 bet hits, you get $200 in bonus bets. That's an outstanding deal. FanDuel's always got deals like that going on. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If you win, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA and a proud sponsor of the Locked On Network. TCU had a number of big-time official visitors over the weekend, according to Jeremy Clark from Horned Frog Blitz, and one of those guys, Vincent Johnson Jr., offensive tackle from Sulphur Springs. Check out these measurements. 6'5", 310 pounds. Vincent posted some pictures with his family to his X account of that official visit, and he's got a great frame. I mean, he looks like an athletic offensive tackle. This is not just a big dude who, throws his body around and gets in the way of people. This is a guy who can move, who has powerful hands, fires off the ball really well, is good in pass protection. He is a 3-star prospect according to 247 Sports, but his composite ranking, so when they factor in all the rankings, he's a 4-star player, the number 34 ranked offensive tackle in the country, and the number 52nd ranked player in the state of Texas. TCU has done a good job. Killian Registre, Tobias Steps, Ryan Hughes has come on in a big way since he made it to campus. Sonny Dykes said in a recent interview, he was like, Ryan Hughes wasn't a guy that we thought can contribute in year one, but he just got to practice and immediately started making things happen. They've done a great job investing in the O-line, in the high school recruiting ranks. It's a numbers game to a certain extent. You get everybody in there, you see who sticks, who makes it happen. They do not have a number of or many blue chip offensive linemen that are coming in, though. That's been an area where they haven't been able to quite land people. And it feels like every summer I have a show like this where I come on and I talk about some 4-star or 5-star offensive lineman that had visited TCU from the Metroplex, has some local connections, but they haven't been able to land those types of players. This is one of those guys. If they could land Vincent Johnson Jr., nothing's a sure thing, but that would be huge for TCU's recruiting efforts. If you're not convinced by the star ratings, if you're like, well, that stuff doesn't move the needle for me, well, you just look at his offer list. Baylor, Arkansas, Texas A&M, Kansas State, Texas Tech. The list goes on. There are a lot of teams and a lot of teams that know offensive line play and understand how it works that are ready and willing to take on Vincent Johnson as a player. According to Jeremy Clark, he's made multiple visits this year. So TCU has been known in the past. Some of these blue chip players that live nearby, they're really comfortable at TCU. They like coming to campus. They like bonding with the coaching staff, but they don't always pull the trigger and commit. I'm hopeful TCU can get this done. AJ Ricker, Randy Clements, Sonny Dykes, Kendall Briles, like they need to make Vincent Johnson a priority because these are the types of players that at TCU and the Big 12 are going to change things. When we talk about the Big 12 and the difference between the ACC, or not really the ACC, but the Big 10 and the SEC, I think some of it's overblown. But one area where it's real, the talent gap in the trenches from a depth standpoint is pretty large. And so if some Big 12 teams, and of course in this podcast, like we're talking about TCU specifically, can start landing these types of players, it's going to shrink that gap. Blue chip, ready to play, big time offensive linemen. Blue chip, ready to play, big time edge rushers. And TCU's credit, Chad Woodfork fits that bill. I mean, he is a prototypical edge rusher guy, and he looks like he could play right now. But Vincent Johnson Jr., let's make it happen, man. Let's go ahead and commit right now. TCU had him there for an official visit, had a number of other people or a number of other players. So watch out this week. We'll see if anybody commits. We'll see if we get some news. But sounds like this was the start of that big push as we head towards the summer where we're going to get a lot more active in seeing what this 2026 class looks like and what this coaching staff is valuing and evaluating from a player standpoint. And it's getting earlier and earlier every year, but now so many of these guys, they want to make these decisions before their senior year of high school, which makes sense. You want to focus on playing football and whatever else you want to accomplish in your senior year. You don't want to have to worry about your college decision and where you're going to play and NIL deal and all those things. So Vincent Johnson is interested in that. Let's have some urgency from the TCU coaching staff. When we come back, a brief discussion about baseball, and then we'll get to some of your thoughts. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Okay, Upwork. Visit Upwork.com right now to post your job for free. If you need to find people for your business, that requires expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them to top freelance talents across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. You can find the right talent, you can do it in a fast and easy way, and it helps you with cost-effective growth. Visit Upwork.com right now to post your job for free. That's UPWRK.com. Upwork.com to connect with top talent and start growing your business today. Again, that's Upwork.com. Post your job for free. Connect with top talent. Get freelancers for AI, marketing, and design jobs. Do it today. So I recorded Sunday afternoon, and at the time, TCU had dropped 2 games to Arizona. But good news, on Sunday, they won. They pulled out a 13-6 victory. Carson Bowen had a good game. Sawyer Stroh-Snyder did his typical thing, driving in a few runs. Colton Griffin is a name to know. Colton Griffin started the year as TCU's leadoff hitter. Dealt with some injuries as the year went on. He sort of fell out of the lineup. But he had a big day on Sunday. And he's got speed. This TCU lineup, they got to find something. They got to shake things up. Because the bullpen, yeah, there's some issues there. You're starting rotation. Maybe this was the weekend where you finally broke through and started defining some roles. It seems like Caven Parker's healthier. Mason Brasfield did a nice job. I'm kind of done just like anointing guys after they have one good start, though, because I've done that plenty of times over the last few years, and then, things change. But it does feel like that rotation is starting to come together. Need to figure out Braden Sloan in that bullpen. But the bottom line is, if you can't score runs consistently, it's going to be tough to win a regional. And this is a team that has had their issues with that lately. So we'll see what they do when they play Cincinnati Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Cincinnati coming off a sweep of Kansas and Lawrence. They're a red-hot team right now. Big-time series in Lupton, last Lupton series of the year. So a lot of you chimed in the YouTube comments yesterday. Derek Keaton is a frequent listener, says he listens every day and has been doing that for the past 3 years. Thank you, Derek. I appreciate it, man. That's awesome. If anybody gives me the time of day, thank you so much. And I appreciate you being a loyal listener. Ron also enjoys the podcast. Ron, you're the best, buddy. Appreciate you chiming in there on YouTube and being a loyal listener as well. Going back to the North Carolina game and its importance within TCU season, Tommy Fisher says he thinks UNC has lost most of their talented players to the portal. He's not sure people are going to buy into Bill and what's got going on there. He's won a lot of games without having the best roster, but he had the greatest quarterback of all time. He has not won anything without Brady. I would expect his defensive coaching to be very sound. I think we have the talent advantage. If we use tempo, we could help not give him the time he needs to set his defense. He hasn't had to deal with that in the NFL. I agree with most of that. Yeah, I mean, he's a good defensive coach. I think this is going to be a great test for Josh Hoover in this offense and Kendall Briles, because as I said yesterday, like, he's going to have the advantage of an entire year of film, really, to break down what TCU does, what their tendencies are. So I'm sure he's going to have a really good game plan of, all right, let's take away what they're best at and force them to be uncomfortable. And how does TCU respond? That's going to give us a really good idea of what this team looks like and who they are going into this season. Matt Clark was talking about the beach volleyball team winning a national title. He said, awesome job, Frogs. TCU had lost to LMU in their 2 previous matches this year. LMU caught the momentum at one point, and it looked like they were going to win again, but this time the Frogs stood strong and understood the importance of the moment. Yes, they did. Really good victory for TCU beach volleyball, national champion. And Matt Clark is who's been reminding me all year, you need to talk about this team. They're really good. I'm sorry I neglected that at times, but yeah, he's 100% right. That was a great team that did some outstanding work and brought home a national title. TCU men's tennis will play UCF this weekend in the Sweet 16. They actually fell to UCF in the Big 12 tournament. So we'll see how David Rodini and his squad bounces back. Hopefully they're fully healthy for that match. We'll be back tomorrow. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can find us wherever podcasts are available. We're free and available there.